Elisabeth Braw. She is a senior fellow at the American Enterprise Institute with a focus on national security and defense, and she joins me now live from London. It's a pleasure having you on the program today. Now, reports of a 65-kilometer-long convoy of Russian troops just outside the capital of Kiev. How worrying is this?
Well, it's clearly extremely worrying because the early accounts of this war, the early evidence was that Russia was doing quite badly and that the Ukrainians were putting up surprisingly successful and efficient resistance. And I think the whole world cheered them on for trying to defend their country. But the longer this goes on, the more it will drain their resources. And clearly, the Russians are bringing in more resources, including this very long convoy of military vehicles, including supplies. So it is extremely worrying. And we should remember, too, that Ukraine has received a lot of defense material from NATO, but that's essentially it now. It is as prepared as it can be.
Looking at Russia's army and its military capabilities and equipment they're using is probably one of the reasons why it shocks the world that Ukraine was able to resist till now, day 7 of attacks. But Russia isn't using its full military capacity, is it?
Well, so this is why this convoy of vehicles is so interesting. And it's essentially building on what we are seeing now in the past 24, 48 hours, really intense bombing and the destruction there, as you showed on the previous news clip of, for example, the Opera House. And so the first days were essentially sort of the warm-up for the Russians, as it seems, and now it's intensifying. And the Ukrainians don't have very much to add to what they are already doing. We should remember that it is not impossible for a small country to resist a large one. Finland resisted the Soviet Union for 105 days, 1939 and 1940, despite terrible odds. So if the Finns could do it for 105 days, the Ukrainians, I think, have some good chances still. But there is just a difference in size and equipment and also expertise of these armed forces, even though the Ukrainians have trained very intensively over the past 8 years.
Right, and we heard from Zelensky calling out to Biden that they need more military equipment. How much more military equipment do you think the West needs to provide Ukraine with for them to be able to use the manpower that Zelensky says he has and fight back?
Yeah, this is a tricky part. So a lot of Western analysts and commentators are saying, well, we should donate this, we should donate that. It depends on whether the Ukrainians are able to insert it into their existing armed forces. First of all, get it to where those units are who would use it. And second of all, whether they would be able to quickly incorporate it into what they already have. So you can't just add, for example, something completely new that they don't already have, because then they would have to be trained. Some of that training can be done remotely, but not all of it. And also there is the really tricky issue now, how do you deliver it? The Germans, for example, were very uneasy about delivering their donations inside Ukraine, and they tried to instead deliver it on the Polish side, which I think is how it ended up being delivered. But now that there is a war, it will be just much more difficult to get the equipment to the Ukrainians. Not impossible. The Lithuanians, for example, delivered equipment inside Ukraine the other day, but much more difficult, clearly, than during peacetime.
Right, and Russia is saying that it has captured Kherson in Ukraine's south, whereas local authorities there say the opposite. With all these moving parts to this crisis, it's very hard to verify information coming out of the region. Could Russia be misinforming people as a tactic?
I'm glad you brought up misinformation. This war is being conducted in a fog of misinformation and disinformation. And it's extremely difficult for the ordinary citizen to make sense and get a proper understanding of what's going on. And unfortunately, a lot of social media users, internet users in the West mindlessly share whatever information they happen to come across and don't realize that they contribute to to muddying the picture and giving a wrong sense of what's going on simply by sharing that information. And I would have thought that so many years into disinformation, misinformation being a problem in our societies, people would be more judicious about what sort of information they share. But it's like, it's the excitement of watching a war, apparently, and they throw all caution to the wind and share and share and share. And as a result, the understanding we have of this war is not as good as it should be. In fact, it's quite bad.
All right, Senior Fellow at the American Enterprise Institute, Elisabeth Braw, it was a pleasure speaking to you here on TRT World. Thank you for that insight.